Hey guys, so today's video is going to be my long-awaited labor and delivery story. Sorry if you've been waiting for it, but I'm just going to start from the very beginning. So on the Friday before he was born, I was 38 weeks and 1 day pregnant, and I had a doctor's appointment, my 38-week doctor's appointment. And at that point, my doctor checked me and said that I was 1 centimeter dilated and asked if I wanted a membrane sweep. And I was so eager to have this baby right then and there, basically, that I said yes. And she's like, do you want just a regular membrane sweep or do you want a really aggressive membrane sweep? So I, of course, took a deep breath and said I wanted a really aggressive membrane sweep because I wanted to have this baby that weekend. So that's what she did. It was horrible. I had incredibly strong contractions all weekend, but they weren't getting any closer together. They were about between 10 and 15 minutes apart, and they didn't feel like real contractions, but they also were really strong and painful. It's really hard to explain, but I do have an older son, so I have been through labor before, and this didn't really feel like labor, at least in my experience. So I had those contractions all weekend long, but nothing was really happening. So then Monday came along, so I was 38 weeks and 4 days on Monday. And I had this big long to-do list. I had pretty much decided that I wasn't gonna have this baby early, that I was gonna end up having him on or around my due date. So I just continued along with everyday life. My water broke that night at 10:30 p.m. and it was one of those things where I wasn't really sure if my water broke. With Max, my water broke all at once, this huge big gush. I thought I peed the bed, like all of the fluid came out at once. With Wyatt, we were just watching a show. When the show was finished, I was getting up off the couch, which was a huge process at that point. And then I was just feeling really wet. Like when you're heavily pregnant, sometimes you sneeze and you pee a little. It just happens. It's one of those things nobody really talks about. That's kind of the feeling that I was having, like a little wet. We'll just say that. And then I just started doing my nighttime routine. I was washing my face, went to go pee before bed, and I had sat down and I knew I hadn't started peeing yet, and all of this liquid was coming. So I was like, oh no, pretty sure my water just broke. It was a little bit like brownish red, so there's a little bit of bloody show happening. And I was like, Jeremy, I think my water just broke. Let's just go to the hospital and get this checked out. And this was about 11 p.m. So we had to wake Max up, poor guy, on a Monday night. So he did have school the following day. We felt terrible waking him up and dragging him to the hospital, but if you think your water breaks, you gotta go to the hospital and get checked. And they confirmed, yes, my water had broken. And then they asked me if I wanted to stay and start getting induced, because they do that now. They don't make you wait or anything. And I was like, well, it's now getting on to 11:30 at night. I was like, let's just see if this happens naturally. I prefer that over an induction. I got a good night's sleep. Nothing was really happening. My contractions were still there. They just weren't getting any closer together. If you're new to my channel, I did start having contractions in the middle of April when I was 35 weeks. So I've been having contractions for 3 weeks at this point. So I was still just having those. They didn't really keep me up through the night usually. I mean, every once in a while, one would kind of wake me up, and then I'd stay awake to see if this was real labor, and it wasn't. And when your water breaks, you need to have your baby within 24 hours. At least that's what I have been told. You have a risk of infection if you wait any longer than that. So I obviously didn't want that. So they said I have up until 24 hours to come back to the hospital. So the next morning, we got Max ready. He went off to school. I still wasn't really having many strong contractions. So I called the hospital and asked if they wanted me to come in or if had a room available for me to come in. And they told me to go have a really big lunch and then come in. So that's what I did. We went to Subway. I arrived at the hospital for my induction at around 2 p.m. They got me all set up in a delivery room. They had to do blood work, all this stuff. So the induction didn't actually start until about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which I wish it had started a little bit sooner. If I'm not knowing what happened next, like I wish they would have started it a little sooner. Maybe I should have went to the hospital a little sooner because I didn't want to be laboring into late in the night, because then I knew I'd be really tired at that point. But it was all fine. The induction wasn't really doing anything for me. They kept upping my dose of oxytocin, I think it is. Hey, sorry for the super awkward transition, but my camera just died, and the dummy that I am didn't have any of my other battery packs charged. So I'm filming the rest of this on my phone. I hope that the quality is okay. I am using my front camera, so hopefully it's all right. It looks okay to me. Really sorry, but I want to get this video done for you guys because Wyatt is almost 11 weeks old at this point. So as I was saying, the dose of whatever induction drug I got, I think it was called oxytocin, kept getting increased every 10 to 15 minutes, trying to get me to feel the contractions. So on the monitors they had like strapped across my belly, they could see that I was having contractions every 3 minutes, but they weren't really causing me any discomfort. Like, yes, I could feel them, but when they asked me if they were uncomfortable, no, I could continue a conversation. I didn't have to really stop to breathe through them. They were super mild contractions. They were just really close together at this point. They kept asking me if I wanted to get up and walk around, which I really didn't want to do. At around 5:30 p.m., my nurse was adamant about me sitting on a birthing ball because nothing was really happening. And that seemed like a better plan to me. So at 5:30 I got on the birthing ball, and I kid you not, the second I sat on that ball, I was in immediate intense pain. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I went from feeling fine, like not having to even breathe through the contractions, talking, my contractions were 3 minutes apart, but I was like, oh, this isn't bad at all, to holy fuck, get me an epidural right this second. Like, there was no gradual pain to it. With Max, like, my water broke, then the contractions started coming, and I like had this very gradual labor that gave you time to adjust. And this just happened all at once. They told me to go pee, and then they checked me and I asked for an epidural. So at this point I was about 4 to 6 centimeters dilated. I don't exactly remember, but it wasn't like as far along as I thought because of the level of pain I was in. So like, I really want the epidural. I was planning on trying to go natural. Then my pelvis split in the front through my pregnancy, and then I was told that because of that, labor is going to be more painful. So I went into it knowing that I wanted the epidural, but they wouldn't give it to me unless I was in actual pain, which I completely understand, because what is the point of numbing myself from the waist down if I don't even feel any pain to begin with? So we waited, but we waited too long. So I asked for the epidural. The contractions were almost unbearable. Once they were done the epidural, they lay you down on your side. This happened with both Max and Wyatt. With Max, they put me on my side, and then like an hour later they put me on the other side because my labor was much longer with Max. A few minutes after they laid me on my side, I don't really know how long exactly, because I feel like I was in labor for 1,000,000 hours when really it was a little over 1 hour. So a few minutes after, they laid me on my left side, and they're like, is it helping? And I was like, no. And they were like, weird, it should like take your pain away within 5 to 10 minutes. And like, it was doing nothing for me. The contractions were continuing to get stronger and more painful. And then all of a sudden, I just screamed, a lot of pressure, I need to push. And the poor nurses are supposed to switch at 6:30, and then the nurse I had was going to be off at 7. She had to finish up paperwork or something. We didn't have time for any of that. Like, I need to push, and I need to push right that second. And all that was numb were my toes. So even though I pushed for the epidural, I got the epidural in time because I was only about like 4 to 6 centimeters dilated. It did nothing for me because I went from 4 to 6, again, I'm sorry, I don't remember how many centimeters dilated it was when I got the epidural, to 10 in a matter of minutes. And then there was no doctor available to deliver my baby right then. So I'm being told to not push yet because there is no doctor available, which, if you have ever had a baby, a vaginal birth, and you get that feeling where you need to push now. So being told to not push, but to take deep breaths and continuing to breathe. They're trying to get you to relax basically instead of like bearing down. That was the worst part of this whole delivery. Like having the intense contractions I was having. They're super painful, but then to be fighting against my body wanting to push this baby out, like I was fighting against my like natural instincts. I was in the worst pain ever. I'm smiling about it now because I have this beautiful baby boy, but like in that moment I was absolutely terrified. My doctor got there from a few roads down, must have like ran or teleported. I'm not really sure. She got there real fast though. And then as soon as she walked in the door, like my doctor was so good. She like had her gloves on in seconds and like we were ready to go. She got there at 6:35. Wyatt was born at 6:41. That's 6 minutes from the time my doctor walked in to the door to I have a baby on my chest. During those 6 minutes, it felt like a lot longer than that. I could feel everything. But the pushing part is not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. The not pushing, because there's no doctor here yet, was worse by a million times. I can't even explain to you how bad that was compared to the pushing part, because then I was like following my natural instinct. I was like giving birth, not trying not to give birth, if that makes any sense at all. But during those 6 minutes, his head got stuck a little when he was crowning. So that was another time where I like, stop pushing, don't push with the next contraction. And I did end up getting a 2nd-degree tear because of that. And then the next push, my doctor was saying, hold on, he has a cord around his neck, which in that moment, because we didn't know this going in, like they didn't pick it up on any ultrasounds, anything like that. In that moment, I was so scared. She said loosely around his neck, so she wasn't screaming like the baby was blue or anything, but the cord being around his neck at all scared me to death. And another disappointing part about that, besides me being scared to death, was that Jeremy didn't get to cut the cord, which I know is like a really special moment, and I wish he got to have that with Wyatt. So like I said, I pushed for 6 minutes. Wyatt was born at 6:41 p.m., weighing 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and was 19¼ inches long. The moment that baby is set on your chest, like all that pain from the last, I don't know if you're in labor for 36 hours or 6 hours or 1 hour like I was, it all just disappears. Like, it is so incredible. And only once Wyatt was set on my chest did Jeremy finally relax. He was totally my rock through this whole process. I was going to not get emotional. He held my hand through the whole thing. He didn't show me that he was scared at all, even though it was happening a lot faster than we had like expected, because I was perfectly happy. I was like bitching about how I couldn't have a cookie for quite a while. Like everyone was having supper at like 5 o'clock, and I was like, I want to have supper, and they're like, no, you can't because you're hooked up to your induction drugs. But Jeremy just held my hand, he rubbed my back, he gave me hugs, and I feel like I couldn't have done it if I was by myself, like, because it happened so quickly, and I'm just really glad I had him there. I'm just gonna stop there. After the placenta was delivered, my doctor said that she saw some cysts up inside of me. So that can be really worrisome. Sometimes they can indicate other health problems. So they called for a specialist to come in, which maybe took about 15 or 20 minutes. I really didn't care at that moment, but like thinking back, I maybe should have been a little worried. So I was just open, like legs open on the table for about 15-20 minutes waiting for the specialist. And so when she got there, they dealt with those, the specialist and my doctor together, and then they sewed up my tear, which, like I said, was second degree. I seem to be healing fine from that, but so that had to be stitched up, had to be dealt with. And for that, the epidural had kicked in. So thank you so much for that, modern medicine. So as I mentioned earlier, my toes were numb for the transitional period of my labor and into pushing, but by the time I was getting stitched up, I couldn't feel a thing, which, I mean, I'm thankful for that I didn't have to feel that as well on top of birthing my baby. But I mean, it could have kicked in a little sooner. I would have appreciated that a little bit more. So we ended up staying in the actual delivery room for a few hours. All our friends and family came in while I was still there. I was still on the table, like I was covered up obviously. But because the epidural had kicked in, I couldn't walk over to the bathroom to get cleaned up before like people came in or anything. So I was just like all disgusting, laying on the delivery table. I mean, nobody cared. Nobody was even looking at me. Everyone was looking at the cute new baby. That kind of like wraps it up, I guess, the end of the delivery room for a labor and delivery story. But I just want to touch on like two other things. One is that I feel as though I had a natural delivery, although many of you may disagree with that because I did get an epidural technically. But because it didn't kick in until afterwards, like, I don't want those of you who have had a natural birth to take that away from me. Like, I still felt everything. So although I did get the epidural, it didn't kick in until afterwards. And the only reason I'm saying this is because the internet can be a very hostile environment, but I want my channel to be very inclusive. I support those of you who want all of the medication modern medicine has to offer, and I support those of you who want to have a natural home birth or any variation of that. And it makes me really sad to see the comments on other people's videos. So I just want to say that I feel as though I had a natural delivery in the sense that no pain medication had kicked in. I mean, it was unnatural in every other way. I did get the epidural, it didn't work. I had to get induced because my body didn't go into active labor on its own, but it would have been dangerous for me to wait for that because my water had broken long before. If I do have another baby in the future, which I'm still not sold on, we had originally wanted 3 kids, and this labor and delivery was such a whirlwind and not necessarily in a good way that I'm a little nervous to maybe have a 3rd child. So not sure if that's in the cards for us, but if we were to have a 3rd child, I might forego the epidural completely next time, because now I know that I am capable of delivering a baby without it. Like, I did it. I've done it once. So I will be able to do it again, potentially. However, in this case, it helped tremendously that my labor was 1 hour. So I felt as though I was done after, like, when I said I had to push and I was being told to wait, I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I was done. I even said that to Jeremy, like, I can't do this. Like, the epidural's not working. I can't do it anymore. Like, I was in so much pain. So I know I can do it because it was fast. That being said, if we were to have a 3rd child, who knows how long that labor is? Yes, they say it gets faster or it stays about the same, but I couldn't be in that much pain for 5, 6, 7 or more hours. I wouldn't be able to do it. So I might get the epidural next time too. So you never know. I also want to say that although I'm grateful for having such a quick labor, I mean quick labor, like I've been in labor for about 3 weeks. Like, I'm having regular contractions for 3 weeks. They just weren't strong or weren't getting close together. I had very quick active labor. We'll say that. It was 1 hour active labor. The intense progression that I experienced was really hard on both myself and Jeremy. because I didn't have a chance to catch my breath, I went from la-di-da, this is fine, like, oh yeah, I'm in labor, to holy fuck, this kid is coming right this second. I didn't ever have a chance to breathe. And that really scared Jeremy as well, like I had mentioned. I really wanted that epidural, and it terrified me to the bone that it didn't have time to kick in. When I said that I needed to push and realized that the epidural wasn't working, I burst into tears because I was in so much pain, and I just looked at Jeremy and I was saying, like, I can't do it, the epidural's not working, I can't right now, like, I'm not doing this. And he was so supportive. He just gave me a hug and told me that I could, and it wasn't until long afterwards did he say that he was actually just as scared as I was, which I really appreciate. Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap this up before I keep getting even more mushy. I'm so glad I finally got this up for you guys. I know it's been a really long time. Like I said, Wyatt will be 11 weeks old tomorrow. It has just taken me this long to film this video. I wanted to get, you know, the updates, things like that up first. So now I'm getting this up for you. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up so that I know, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.